Welcome back everyone. My name is Sagar and in this video we will learn about polymorphism. So what is this polymorphism? It is one of the main pillars of OOPS that are inheritance, polymorphism, abstractions and encapsulation. So what is this polymorphism? It consists of two words, poly and morph. So poly means multiple and morph means forms, or we can say types. So let me just tell you an example. So we already know an example of polymorphism, that means to exist in multiple forms. So I think in lecture 26. Yeah, you can also see here there are these two functions, there are these two methods that are exact same. So you can see scan and print, this method name, and this is also scan and print, so they have the exact same name, and that means this scan and print method is overloaded here. So overloading is a part of our polymorphism, and that is their compile time polymorphism. That means we are defining in our code that there are two functions that have the exact same name, and they can or cannot have the exact return type, but they should have a different type of parameters in them. So either they can have different number of parameters or different type of parameter, as you can see here. So this was an example of compile time polymorphism, and here we are overloading our function. And let me also show you another example. I think in our lecture 27. Okay, we have here our constructor, and you can see there are multiple constructor. So first of all, this is our first constructor and this is our second, so they have the exact same name, and that is also obvious because they are constructor, so they should have this name. So this is here called as constructor overloading, and we already learnt about that. So if you don't know about constructor overloading, then go watch out our constructor video first. So here in this example we are overloading our constructor, and that means we are creating multiple constructor in the same class, and that is also obvious, we cannot do this thing. So if we are doing this, then this will just give us a compilation error, and that means the code is not compiling, and it is showing here error when we are writing our code and it is not compiling. So we are getting a compilation error. So you can just see here there is a red underline here. So this is our compilation error that is saying printer is already defined. So this printer constructor is already defined. As you can see here, there are two constructor with the exact same name, and suppose I am writing something here and something else here. So suppose I am writing here 1 plus 2 and something different here. So you can see still the error is same because the constructor, both of these constructor are exact same. So when I am calling this empty constructor with no parameter, so if I am doing this, then our compiler will just get confused, and our compiler will be not able to decide which constructor to call, either this one or this one, because they have the same, you can say, their design. So they have the same parameter, so our compiler is confused, and that's why we cannot do this thing. So there should be only one constructor with this kind of parameters, and if we are doing this, now our compiler know that there is only one exact constructor that have the this type of parameters. And after that, if we are passing one value here, then our compiler know that there is only one value and it is an integer value, so it will check for the constructor that have one integer parameter, and it is here. So I hope now you understand that we cannot create exact same thing, but we can create similar things, like we can change our number of parameters or our type of parameter. If I am passing here long value and another value, another constructor with integer type, so this will be the exact same thing, and i I should remove this. So now this will compile because they are different type of constructor here. So you can see this is our first constructor that have one parameter, but it is a long value, and it is our second which have an integer value. So this was a good example of our constructor overloading, and after that we already saw this thing about this method overloading, or you can say function overloading. So as you can also see, we are doing this thing when we are writing our code. So this is an example of compile time polymorphism, and that means we have to check the existence of multiple forms when we are compiling our code. So you can see scan and print is here and scan and print is here, and they just have the different type of parameters in them. So now our compiler can decide either this one to choose or this one. So if we are passing an integer value, so our compiler will choose this one, this function, and if we are passing a long value in our parameter, then our compiler will choose this one. And obviously we also cannot do it here because there is also integer and this is also integer, so we have to comment this thing. So this was an example of our compile time polymorphism, and let me just write here, compile time polymorphism is overloading. So overloading means that we are overloading our functions. So there can be multiple function, 1 2 3 or as many you want. So we are overloading the functions here, or you can say your constructors. And after that, remember that thing, we cannot create multiple variables, but this thing only apply to our constructor. So if we are writing here answer, that is your integer, and we cannot do this thing, we cannot create a string with this answer value. So this will just give us a compilation error. So this thing is not possible. We can only overload our functions or our constructor. Okay. And after that we have another, that is runtime polymorphism. So what is this runtime polymorphism? The example is here overriding. So what is this overriding? So first of all, we already learned about inheritance in our previous video. If you don't know what it is, then first go check that out. So let me just show you the example of runtime polymorphism. So if we are creating a class, animal class, so this class, I think this class already exists. So let me just create it inside of this lecture 30. So now this class is our subclass, sorry, inner class. And suppose I am writing here some function. So this is a void function and eat. So an animal can eat, and we are suppose writing here animal is eating. And after that I am creating another class, that is a dog class. So dog class extends animal. So we already learned about this inheritance thing, what is this extends keyword, and how we are defining this dog class. So what we can do here is we can just override this function of this animal class. So that means when we are overriding the properties or when we are overriding the functions of our parent class, so then that will be called as overriding. So you can also consider it as overwriting when we are overwriting some files. So we can just use here annotation. So this is our annotation of override, and we can just write here the exact same function eat. So after that we can just override this thing, that dog is eating. So after that what will happen? So when we are creating an object of dog class, so let me first of all comment this thing. So if there is no function of this eat method inside our dog class, so that means there is no method inside our dog class, and we are just defining this as it is. So initially you can see there is nothing inside our dog class, and let me create an object of this. So dog, it is from lecture 30, and dog object. Okay, it is not static here, and for that what we can do, we can either create an object of this lecture 30 class, but we don't want to do that. I can just make it static, and we will also learn about what is this static keyword and why we have to use it. So now we can access this dog without creating object of lecture 30 class. So after that what we have to do, we have to call this eat method, and we know that this eat method is not defined in this dog class, but we can still access it because this eat method is present in the parent class of this dog, so we can still access it. So what we can do is dog dot eat, and this will just print us animal is eating. Let me just try. So we will just see animal is eating. So that means we are accessing the parent class function. And suppose you want to define something for your own class, so that means we have to not define that animal is eating, we have to say that dog is eating. So what we can do is we can just override this function. So for that we have to use here this override, and after that we can just do the same thing, eat method, and I can just print here dog is eating. So first of all, what our compiler will do, so we are writing here dog.eat. So that means first of all our compiler will check that this eat method is present in our dog class or not. And if this eat method is present in our dog class, so we will just execute that. And if the method is not present in our dog class, so then we will check our parent class. So that means we will check for animal class. And this time we will just print dog is eating. So this was an example of method overriding. So I hope now you understand this thing, and now you know that we are defining here. So first of all, let me just remove this thing. So suppose you don't know where is this animal class. So what you are doing here is you are doing here runtime polymorphism. That means you are defining in runtime that this method, this eat method is overridden, and this eat method also exists in multiple forms. First of all, this is our form, and the next form is our parent class method. So this is an example of our runtime polymorphism. And also remember this thing, that this is our overriding. So you can just remember this thing using this annotation. So this can be also an important interview question, what is this overloading and how it is different from overriding. So you can just say here that this is our compile time polymorphism and this is our runtime polymorphism. And another difference is you can just see we are using here child and parent class relation, so inheritance is also applied here. And what is the example of this compile time polymorphism? So you can just see this constructor overloading, and after that this thing. So this is our method overloading, and that's it. So that is it for today, everyone. If you like this video, then do subscribe to our channel, and thank you for watching.